Welcome, welcome, my good friends, and welcome, clobberers, to Clobbering Times, Clobby'S Comics Corner Spinner Rack Time Machine, December 1971, week one, and I really got to work on that. That's just too much to say, isn't it? Well, welcome, my good friends. For those who have stumbled across this video, and it's the first you may have seen of Clobby'S Comics Corner Spinner Rack Time Machine, basically, what I do is I refer to a wonderful website called Mike's Amazing World. I'm Mike, but I'm not that Mike because I'm not that amazing like the Mike that made that site. It's really, amazing. This one here, and I highly recommend it. And what I do basically is this. We take my TARDIS, which is in the chameleon shape of a spinner rack from the 70s, and we go back. I was once, for those who do not know, in the comic book business. I worked in shops, run shops, owned a shop of my own for a while. And we go back to 1971, and we pretend that you have a pull list at my comic shop. And we look at the comics that were available in week one. We go by the weeks, of course, like everyone does when they go get their comics. The site shows you everything that came out that week, that month, in fact. And I pick a few. I make a folder based upon not only my 1971 sensibilities, and yes, I was alive. I was very young, very young. I combine them a little bit with my 2021 sensibilities. I pick about anywhere from 9 to 10, 11 comics each week to show you the ones that I would have picked. I just talk about them briefly in as short a video as I can make it. And then, of course, the next day I do a follow-up video where it's just show you some of the ones that came out that week that I didn't pick. Full warning, of course, full disclosure, I'm a big superhero and genre geek. There are a lot of other types of comics that we do cover later in the second video if I didn't pick them up. But anyway, so that's the big introduction. I do that because some people come across these videos that have not seen them. These are my picks for December, week 1, 1971. Let's get to it, my friends. Thank you all for being here. First, I'm going to go a little outside the box because, of course, I've been picking comic books, but this is the first time I've been doing this in September, and this is the first time I've seen an issue of this pop up that I remember anyway. I'm going to go with a Warren magazine, Famous Monsters of Filmland, Forey Ackerman's, and I'm not even much of a horror buff that really. I'm not into horror films, but I like the Universal horror films and things like that. And I used to buy Famous Monsters quite a bit. Who didn't? Who didn't buy Famous Monsters? It covered sci-fi and fantasy things as well, but, emphasis on, of course, horror. Again, but Mr. Science Fiction, published a magazine for us, J. Ackerman, who I was fortunate enough to meet once. So I thought we'll go a little bit outside of the box there. Just a little bit. So, but as far as my comic book selections, let's get to those. I picked up something off the rack at Clobby'S Comics Corner, but now we're going to go to my comics in my folder. Magnus Robot Fighter. Magnus Robot Fighter number 30. By, of course, Gold Key Comics with a story, Herb Castle, art by Russ Manning. I always liked Russ Manning. And I always liked Magnus, and so I wish I'd have picked up these more when I was a kid. But I became a fan of Magnus a little bit through that, and a lot through the Valiant run of the early 90s. Interestingly enough, through my research shows that Mike Royer did this cover. Yes, that Mike Royer, who we'll mention later, who was Jack Kirby's inker for a long time. So there you go. Magnus chopping them robots up. The Phantom, Lee Fox. The Phantom from Charlton Comics. Been picking this one up for the past couple of months on the spinner rack time machine. Clobby'S Comics Corner, that is. Number 48 of the Phantom with the story by Joe Gill, art by Pat Boyette. He was big at Charlton. He's big. I've known some Boyette fans. Some additional stories by Gill, Charles Nicholas, with some art by Vince Alasia, and a cover by Pat Boyette. So there you go. And, of course, I'm a big fan of Lee Falk's The Phantom, his classic character, who was, of course, a strip character, an Australian strip character who became huge and has been around for a long time. So there you go. Now, next is one from really off the wall. This one, I like to throw a curveball once in a while, throw a little bit out there. Shout out to my buddy Phantom Outsider. This one's for you because you wondered why I would get Lazarus, as I showed a picture on my stream the other night. Well, I'm about to show you. Primus #1. Yes, that is Primus #1. A Charlton title based upon a TV show by a gentleman by the name Ivan Tors, who created a very famous show with Lloyd Bridges called Sea Hunt. Well, he was asked to do a show like Sea Hunt around this is somewhere in the early 60s, mid 60s. Mid-late 60s, I guess it was, for syndication. They started having some syndicated TV shows with lower budgets and things like that. And it was a scuba diving type show or whatever with all kind of gadgets and stuff. And it starred Robert Brown, who played this gentleman on the infamous terrible Star Trek episode. Some think it's terrible. Most do. I do. And The Alternative Factor. He played Lazarus. And but he was the star of this show. Interestingly enough, of course, art by Joe Gill in the comic. Joe Staton, yes, the DC known Joe Staton did the art on the interior, apparently, with a Robert Brown photo cover. Interesting enough about this show, I was looking at it, because again, it didn't last very long from what I understand. You can't find much info on it. The comic lasted a few issues, I believe, but so I thought I'd pick it up just for the fun of it. It would be a crazy thing to pick up. Adam West was on an episode. Adam West was on an episode of this, according to the IMDb on it. I have not watched it, but I'm saying it says he was on there. Susan Oliver also. But yes, there you go. Lazarus from The Alternative Factor was on a Lloyd Bridges ripoff show by the creator of Sea Hunt, TV's latest smash. Yeah, so go figure that. Sorry about my voice, folks. It's bad at the best of times, but it's really messed up right now. So I just thought this would be a fun oddity to show you, to pick up. So I would have probably done that at this age. Who knows? I never bought this comic. I'd seen it around somewhere, but I totally forgot about it until I saw it on Mike's Amazing World for this week 1 of December. Now, in the Christmas spirit, getting in there early, DC starts doing that right away with Batman #239. With, of course, story by Dennis O'Neil, the great Dennis O'Neil. Irv Novick, whose Batman I kind of liked, but I was more partial to his Flash. Inks by, of course, the great Dick Giordano. Secondary stories are reprint from Batman #15. And, of course, there's also another new story in the back there by Mike Frederick and Rich Buckler with Giordano inks. And a nifty Neil Adams Dick Giordano cover. A classic cover, Batman with the Christmas gifts playing Santa with the Santa beard. You got to love those times. I love me some Bronze Age. I love me some Bronze Age Christmas comics. I really do. Back to Gold Key, folks, with Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan of the Apes, number 206. It's difficult to research these. Some of these comics that aren't Marvel or DC, some of these Gold Keys or Charltons, I recommend, if you need that sort of thing, a good research tool is, of course, the Grand Comics database is pretty good at that. And anyway, story and art for the first story, Gaylord Dubois, with art by Paul Norris. Yeah, Golden Age Aquaman creator Paul Norris. Second story, Dubois and Jesse March, with a nifty cover by great Gold Key legendary cover artist George Wilson. And you can't get enough of the George Wilson covers. King alert, King alert, King alert. Forever People, Fourth World. Number 7 of the Forever People, of course, the King of Comics, the great Jack Kirby. Both stories, the first 2 stories, new stories by the King, writing and penciling with Mike Royer, the aforementioned, on the inks, as he was quite a bit for Kirby in the Age of Bronze at DC, and even at Marvel. So always great to see that with a backup third story reprint from the Simon and Kirby team, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, from Adventure Comics number 80. So we always love to see some Kirby here because we love Kirby. We are the Kirby Commandos here at Clobbering Times. Unofficially, of course. There's no not official. Oh, yeah. No. Our Army at War, number 241, featuring Sergeant Rock, with a nifty, as always, nifty Joe Kubert cover, the master of the war comics, and among other things. Well, the master of cartooning, the teacher of cartooning, the greatest teacher of cartooning, the great Joe Kubert. So you always got to love a Kubert cover. Reprints from GI Combat's number 57 and number 70, written by such a distinguished gents as Robert Kenninger, Bob Haney, Bill Finger, and Sam Glanzman. Art by luminaries in the field, not just war comics, of all comics. The great Russ Heath, the great Alex Toth, the great John Severin, and the great Sam Glanzman, and the even great Joe Kubert with a great Joe Kubert cover aforementioned. And again, sorry to use the word great a lot, but there's just a whole lot of greatness going on in the reprints in this nifty war comic. Our Army at War, number 241. A landmark here, folks. I am a huge Jonah Hex fan, and we have the first appearance of Jonah Hex, All-Star Western number 10, in this fine month of December 1971 in week 1 at Clobby'S Comics Corner. The Spinner Rack Time Machine has taken us to another landmark. We had a landmark, couple of landmarks in November. We got one here of Jonah Hex. Gotta love Jonah, in his debut by his creators, John Albano, the writer, of course, and art by Tony DeZuniga, who was, for me, the definitive, or one of them, if not definitive, one of the great Jonah artists. Love him. Story 2, art by Mr. Robert Kenninger and by the one of my favorite artists, Gray Morrow. Nice stuff there. And you have a third story by the great Dennis O'Neil, with actually co-written by the great Sergio Aragonés, creator of Gru, with some nifty Nick Cardy art, because who doesn't love some Nick Cardy, with Mike Sikowski on the inks there. That's surprising a little. With a cover by DeZuniga, of course. So this is big. This is a huge one right here, folks, for Jonah Hex fans of Western comics in general. This was just, yeah. What shocking truth made the town he saved fear? Jonah Hex. Yes. Well, with my voice screwing up, I guess that just kind of fits, doesn't it? The Amazing Spider-Man number 106. Story by... Okay, this is a curious one for me. It's been a while since I've read these. Way a while. So, all I can say is story by Stan Lee. I thought Stan was mostly gone at the time. I guess he went back. I'm not sure if they used older stories that were never used or what. But for a number of issues, the Stan Lee, John Romita Sr. team returned to the series, of course. For a while, looks like. It's been a while since I've looked at these. You've got to understand. I don't have this anymore. With each by, of course, Frank Giacoia. Monday, I'll say Giosha. Frank Giosha with a Romita Giosha cover. But yes, what a cover. I love me some Romita Spider-Man. I was loving the Gil Kane run that was going on at this time. But, you could never go wrong with the great Romita on Spidey. Yeah, sad to see the end of the Kree-Skrull War, but this is it. It's gone. It's over now. And it's ending kind of abruptly, from what I understand. And again, it's been a while since I've read the Kree-Skrull War. I would like to read this again. But just so happens this time machine started on the Kree-Skrull War. And from what I remember and what I've read, Roy Thomas had to end it rather abruptly, but I love the fact that on this cover, which is by the great Gil Kane and the great Bill Everett, what a combo, huh? They stuck some cool Golden Age characters on there. They got Rick Jones, whom I always loved, of course, and on this cover, they've got the Golden Age Vision Arakas or whatever. They've got who do they got on there? They got Blazing Skull and the original, the Golden Age Angel, of course, some of the obscure Golden Age characters. Oh God, who else is on there? Finn or whatever. Yeah, and Patriot, I think. Yeah, he's on there. And Namor, of course, original Human Torch and Cap. So cool cover all around by a couple of legends. Gotta love it. Another landmark, folks. Landmark. The Brave and the Bold number 100. Yes, indeed. 100. Now, personally, a slight criticism of DC. Slight pet peeve as a comic book geek. I love me some landmarks. I used to love me as annuals, but one thing that was always kind of a problem for me. This looks like a normal cover that could have been, for any issue of Brave and the Bold in the Bronze Age at the time. I think they should have made more of a big deal out of Brave and the Bold 100. It does say at the top, spectacular 100th issue. Well, I mean, the issue itself, they could have done more. It's always, Batman had taken over the book at the time. You got 4 famous co-stars. So that's pretty good. You got some 4 big names. Green Lantern, Black Canary, Robin, and Green Arrow. The story in here is really inadequate, to say the least, for such a celebration. It's a pretty dopey story. Bob Haney. And you should have had a bunch of more heroes popping in there. Should have made it a bigger celebration. Issue 200 had some issues as well, like that, if you'll pardon that pun. But anyway, it is a landmark. It is number 100 of Brave and the Bold. And that is saying something, buddies. That's saying, again, it's still got great Jim Aparo art. So that's one thing. A wonderful interior by Aparo. There's a Neil Adams reprint in there. A Dead Man reprint. So there you go. And you got some good stuff for your 52 pages there. And overall, I'm just saying I would have done a little bit different with a great Nick Cardy cover. So it's a fine. But as far as celebrating a number 100, I probably would have done it differently. Look at me retroactively, 50 years later, criticizing DC. Oh, my goodness. Well, that about wraps it up. We will have a wrap-up video tomorrow, or maybe not even tomorrow, maybe the same day, where I take you on a tour of some of the comics that did not make the cut. But until then, folks, I want to thank you all so much for joining me. There's a link in my description below to not only the other videos in this series, Clobby'S Comics Corner, Spinner Rack Time Machine, 1971, 50 years ago in a comic shop. A subtitle I didn't use, by the way. But there's also a link to Mike's Amazing World, that blog, which is really just fantastic for searching any comic you want to search, any type. I just use the newsstand feature to find when these goodies came out and all that kind of stuff so I can make these videos. So thank you so much for joining me. I know it's a bit of a long video. It just takes too long to talk about this stuff, but I always enjoy it. I hope you did too. If you did, please leave in the comments below. What do you think of my selections? Would you have gotten any of these? Would you have picked any of these? Or which ones would you have picked? Which ones would you not picked? And just overall impressions are appreciated. And please like and subscribe if you have not already. And join us for I do a lot of live streaming about comics and Star Trek and many other geek things. And so thank you for being here. And as always, a shout out to my wonderful first officer, the amazing R.M. Briggs, for my Clobby'S Comics Corner intro outro. Take care, everyone. I'll see you on the next video and hopefully on the streams. Take care, clobberers. Clobber on.